All right, being 6:15, I'd like to call the capital project and equipment committee to order. Pledge has been said. Roll call has been taken. Thank you. I'm looking for a motion to approve the adopted or the amended agenda.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Dorsey, seconded by Mr. Barrington to approve the amended agenda. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next, review the 2025 through 2034 capital equipment and project schedule. Judy?
Okay, so, the department has, I'll take the one with the 10 on it first, Chad. That's the one we're gonna look at, drill down on eventually. Is that all that's in the packet?
Oh, you want the pack? Got it. This one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it. So as a practice, each year, each of the department heads are asked to look at this 10-year capital and add to it, revise, subtract from. And this gives them an idea or all of us an idea of what's coming in the future. So that way, if you have any questions about what your particular department or committee is looking at for future equipment purchases and or projects, you can have some discussion on what those are going to look like, what year you'd like those done. But it also is a good practice for all of us to take a look at things and put them on a list so that they're not forgotten, or take a look at estimates and make sure they're still making sense. So I always feel like it's a good practice to go up 10 years. As you can see, we start with those dollars being quite high and probably more accurate in the 5-year numbers than we are when we get out 10 years. But I still think it's a good idea, again, for us to take a look at those 5 years and then add over time or revise over time what those dollar amount looks like and what those equipments and projects look like. And then again, at committee meetings, if you guys are talking about and discussing things and looking at things in the future, here's a good place to be putting them for a place marker at least of things that we're thinking about doing in the future. So that's the practice of doing that every year, and the department heads do spend a lot of time doing this. And I'm sure at the committee level, they talk about this, and then we drill down on what 2025 is going to look like. So if you don't have any questions on that particulars, we will go into the 2025 capital program. This list, again, is put together by each of the department heads. And then we sit together as department heads. I believe the mayor was part of that meeting. And we talk about what does this look like as prioritizing for December. So what needs to get approved tonight, because we have to have those dollars as quickly as possible. So usually one of the ones that always comes to mind to me is SWATs. Because chief needs to have those dollars approved so that he can get in at certain periods of time to get those ordered. And then we know our supply chain is still slow in a lot of areas. So it gives him the opportunity to move forward with those. Also, this year, our lease, we lease those vehicles. So it's important that we approve those so we can hold on to those vehicles or not selling those next year. So this is the list. And as you know, through the budget process, we approved $500,000 for our capital program. So what you see on this list is the yellow highlighted, or what we as department heads, or they as department heads, I don't have it on the list, but they as, I guess I do this time, approve as priority moving into 2025. And then what can wait until February of next year, because as I close out the 2024 budget, we're hoping that we have some dollars that we can add to the list so that we can go back and reprioritize what's going to happen in 2025. So at this time, I guess if you take a look at those items that are highlighted, I would ask that if you have any questions on any of those, either equipment or projects that are highlighted in here, the department heads that are in charge of each of those items are either in the audience or Ginger's via Zoom, could answer those questions for you. Or if you have any questions like, why is this prioritized? Why do we need to get this done tonight? Or why isn't this one that's not highlighted prioritized and getting, done tonight? So it kind of gives you the opportunity to look at what we looked at as a group and then ask your questions about, I don't think that should be prioritized, or yeah, I agree with what you guys looked at. And then we'll take a second look at it in February. Again, doesn't mean that if you at your committee level says, hey, I really wanted that looked at, if we also have January finance, after finance, we can always run another capital with the $500,000, because this list does not spend all of the $500,000 that we have earmarked to date. So there's always another opportunity in January to go back at it if all of a sudden you're like, hey, I wanted to talk about that, I wanted to look at that, or something happens like the gate doesn't work, we need to get that list. So I guess I'll open it up to you as a committee to ask questions about anything on the list, or if you don't think should be on the list, we'd like to add to the list, or any of those questions.
What was the date that we received those vehicles from Enterprise? Was it June?
Robert, do you remember?
It was either late April or early May.
And again, Robert, just to remind everybody, even though it's called a government lease, it's not a traditional lease like a resident would get. When the vehicles are sold, we actually collect the sales price, correct?
Correct.
So even though it's labeled as a lease and called a lease, it's almost like a loan that we're getting money back after the sale of the vehicle. So just so when the public sees the lease, it's a little bit different than what they would see if they would take out a lease in the private sector.
I was just kind of curious, how many miles have we put on them since we got them 7 months ago?
We could get that.
The vehicle I use is less than 1,000. The general use vehicle, last time I checked, was going on 2,000, maybe more, but that was a couple months ago when I looked at that. As far as building inspector, I'm not sure of that one.
There's one for the Park and Rec as well?
Correct.
Does Ginger know what she has on hers?
Ginger and Morgan share that one.
How many miles we have on it? Is that what you're asking?
Right.
I don't. I know Morgan's taken it to Eau Claire. I took it to Madison for the historical designation. Wauwatosa once. That's the longest trips that we've taken with it. We'll be taking it to conferences this fall, or this winter, sorry.
And Morgan and Ginger got to share that one with Parks and Rec between the two of them.
We do. And if Jim needs it for a training, or Lori, it's available to anybody in our department.
Any other questions?
And I guess one other thing I would like to bring up is the Memorial Park bathroom upgrade. I did highlight that in green, and Ginger, I'm not sure how far you got with talking about this with your committee, but that will be approved, that will come out of the wastewater treatment plant budget. So when we met as a group, we decided that we should, that was a sewer project. And there's $350,000 available within the wastewater treatment plant budget for projects each year. So I know we talked about talking at Department of Public Works and then talking at Park and Rec about getting that dollar amount approved through that wastewater treatment plant budget, so that Ginger could talk to them and allow that project to move forward. I am unsure where that's at today.
We did not
Contribute.
have a December meeting, but
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
I
curious.
don't
when the
know,
school
Robert,
year-
did you bring it up? At,
No, I did not.
It's not something that would be outside, them being able to just spend it at the wastewater, because the dollar amount's already approved through the wastewater treatment plant budget. I just wanted the communication of what the those dollars coming out of that fund for that purpose. So. I'm assuming that'll happen in January then. When we have.
Um, To kind of give more context, fire radio and firefighter equipment, Judy, you want to kind of talk about that real quick? Just to kind of give context about,
Right, so the fire radio equipment and firefighting equipment is something that we do each year. And what that does is it gives them a dollar amount in case something happens to a piece of, or, a radio. Happens all the time where it doesn't work and they have to buy a new one. So we set aside this dollar amount, 13,500 each year, and it can be interchangeable. Maybe there's more firefighter, equipment, so they get a new firefighter and he doesn't fit in anything else, so they gotta go out and get new firefighting equipment. Something rips, they need to go out, and so this just gives them an opportunity to have that kind of dollars available to them for that purpose.
we put the gate opener for the yard site that was not originally on there, but in the last week we put that on there. Robert, you want to kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so the gate opener that's currently on there, is not designed for, as much use as it is being used, currently. I kind of knew this going into, the grand scheme of things of starting this, yard waste pass program. That opener was installed in 15 and, they've had issues with it when it got cold outside, in the past, but now that it has been used so much, during the last cold spell, it got to the point where it wouldn't open anymore. They looked at fixing it and the cost to fix something that is, for all purposes, not really designed for that use anyways. We got an estimate to put, the appropriate opener on that gate.
Right, and then the next two would be back to Ginger, court plan and tree inventory. You want to give some quick updates on the importance of those, Ginger?
Sure. So the court plan, we need to sign the agreement with Northeast Central Wisconsin, or what is it? Planning Commission, or what is their
East Central Wisconsin Regional
East
Planning.
Central Wisconsin Planning Commission. We need to sign a contract with them on January 1. They do start January 1 and working with that. And what it is a comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. Those are necessary to be done every 5 years and would need to be applicable for DNR grants. You have to have them for that. Any federal funding, you would need to have one on record for that. They look good on any other kind of funding that I would be applying for. So that's what that is. And then the urban forestry or the tree inventory is an inventory of all of our trees that are in the terraces, and then also any maintained area of a park. So for instance, in Hatton Park, it would just be grove of hickory in healthy condition. But on each street, it would be each single tree is cataloged. And then with that, we would be able to go in and modify when we did a tree trimming or when we found that one of the trees was dead and we needed to remove it. And this helps us be more efficient in our tree trimming so that we're not just going out there and winging it and, thinking, not being systematic about tree trimmings and cuttings and things like that. I did apply for a DNR grant for this and did get funding for it. So I guess whenever the state or federal government wants to give us money, I feel like it's important for us to have that match and use that money in the efficient ways possible. So those are those two, not really tangible things, but important things for the community.
Ginger, just to confirm that in the budget right now, the 13,874, is that the full amount or that the city's half?
That is the city's match.
So the full project would be 26,000, 27,000.
Correct. And that includes a contractor to come and do the work. It also includes staff wages that would be reimbursed. So when Luke is out there working with the contractor or myself, I'll be spending some time with that contractor, the city would be reimbursed for that. And then we're also going to be receiving 3 tablets. I asked for 4, but they're only going to give us funding for 3 tablets to be used in the field so that Luke and some of the park staff would have tablets on themselves that they can use in the field when they're maintaining.
Judy, you want to talk about payroll?
Sure. So payroll time and attendance, I think we've kind of talked about it, especially if you're in finance. That we've been looking at a number of payroll time and attendance systems within our office. We spent a lot of time going through 3 or 4 of them that are available to government employees, because we are very unique. So NeoGov is the one that we have before you today. It actually is the Cadillac plan, to be honest. The original cost to us as a city was $50,000. Stephanie worked very hard with this company, bringing this down to almost half of the original cost to us. She got a number of estimates from other payroll systems, and they asked her to share what they were going to charge us and compare it to what NeoGov was going to charge us. And when they looked at those other programs, they matched it. And I mean, I can barely believe it, that we're going to get NeoGov in our office at $26,400. Now, remember, this is setting everything up. So this is a lot of work within our offices too. So we're planning this to be after our audit this year. But we do, in order to get the price that she got for it, it's a 5-year contract. And the price is $26,400 to start. And then it drops down, I think, to 13, and then goes 14, 15, 16, something like that every year. But it's a little bit more always in that first year and is considered a capital project because of the time and the amount of time within our office that we're gonna have to spend on this. And we're kind of hoping that with the efficiencies within this payroll system, we can decide that this part-time person that we were looking to hire within our office the dollars we have already set aside will pay for that time and attendance program. So giving Stephanie more time to work on the human resource aspect of her job and making this more efficient, so she has time for that. So that's what that looks like.
And we've been looking for a time and attendance system for a long time. We tried one 6-7 years ago and it didn't work. So we put it on the back burner and now we need to bring it back. We're doing, I mean, what do we got for employees? 150 employees. We're doing it all by pen and paper in hand yet. And it's a lot to do all that by pen and paper yet. So this is something that can really make us more efficient and get rid of a lot of that human calculation errors out of the system. So definitely something we want to become more efficient at. The last thing, Christine, you want to talk about replacement of the, replace and restore storm windows at the museum?
Sure. So this is one of those projects that I referenced when I spoke with you back on November 20th. That's been identified as something a little more critical within the building. These are the fact that the storm windows are pretty much original to the building. So we've got the 1932 museum side, we have the 1914 Carnegie side, and then we have the 1986 joiner. And so in order, we know that the windows, especially the glass, is not in the best of condition. But we feel that in order to maintain the historic nature of this building, that we would like to, as opposed to trying to replace them unless it's absolutely necessary, we'd like to restore the storm windows. So I spoke with, there's only really 2 companies in the state of Wisconsin that works with historic windows and restoration. One of them just happens to be in Oshkosh. So I had him come out. His family has deep roots in New London. It's the Lay family. And I had him come out and work with me and let me know kind of what his thoughts were. And the reason I brought this forward to ask you for this tonight is that he is already into July with scheduling his work. So I would need to get on his schedule as soon as possible, since of course the storm windows would actually be removed from the building, taken back to his shop, worked on and brought back and put in place. The original windows would stay as they are for now. These would just be the storm windows. So there would be no interruption of service for the library or the museum for this work to be done. But we don't want to go through winter without storm windows. So.
How many windows is it?
How many windows is it? A lot. The way he itemized it out for us is that he kind of went by how many like transoms there were. So it's for his estimate. Sorry, that's the actual windows. Give me a second. I will let you know. Just have to find the right estimate. Well, if you're there are my apologies, I don't have. Yes, ma'am.
Essentially, it would be every window.
It would be, yeah, pretty much every window in the building. And some of them are going to be in better condition than others. Some of them there will be more work that needs to be done.
All right, thank you.
And a byproduct of that is hopefully things will be more energy efficient
Correct.
as well, saving us some heating costs.
Here it is, sorry. My apologies, Bob, I was looking at the wrong place. We're looking at around about 60.
Wow, a lot of windows. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion on anything? Not, we can move forward to approving the 2025 capital equipment project purchases. I'd like to make a motion to enterprise lease vehicles for $9,120 per vehicle, 4 vehicles for a total of $36,480.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded by Mr. Dorsey for the enterprise lease vehicles, for 4 vehicles, for a total of $36,480. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next, I'd like to make a motion for 2 police cars, $50,000 each for a grand total of $100,000.
Second that.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Besaw for the approval of 2 cop cars for a total of $100,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. Next, I'd like to make a motion for fire radio equipment for $3,000 and firefighter equipment for $10,500 for a total of $13,500.
I make that motion. Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Besaw for the approval of fire radio equipment for $3,000 and firefighter equipment for $10,500 for a total of $13,500. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That is also carried. Next, I'd like to make a motion for the gate opener for entry into the Yardway site for $6,055. Motion made and seconded by Mr. Barrington for the gate opener for entry into the Yardway site for $6,055. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. Next, I'd like to make a motion for the CORP plan for 2026 through 2030 for $15,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for the CORP plan 2026 through 2030 for $15,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. Next, I'd like to make a motion for the tree inventory for $13,874.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Fache for the tree inventory for a total of $13,874. Any further questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. I'd like to make a motion for the payroll time and attendance system for $26,400.
Second.
Who seconded it? Motion made and seconded by Mayor Herter for the payroll time and attendance system for $26,400. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That is also carried. Lastly, I'd like to make a motion to replace and restore storm windows at the museum for a total of $65,000.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by Mr. Fache to replace and restore storm windows at the museum for a total of $65,000. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And that is all for that. We'll move on to scheduling the next meeting following finance, February 5th, 2025. No questions on that. Looking for motion for adjourn.
Motion. Second.
Motion made by Mr. Barrington, seconded by Mr. Roberts for adjournment. Any further comments? All in favor signify